Artemisia is getting a full skill reset, giving you the sculptures, stars, and the experience tomes back because of an error in the description on the first skill. So in this video, we're going to talk about what's wrong with the skill description and whether or not you should perhaps reinvest in Artemisia or save for something else. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and in this video, we've got to talk about the changes to Artemisia. Her first skill does massive area of effect damage. You would think 1,800 damage factor to 3 targets is great damage, and the reason it's great damage is only because it doesn't say what you normally see on skill descriptions for area of effect damage. It does not say that that damage is reduced for each additional target hit. You look at a commander like Guan Yu, he does 2,000 damage factor. Wow! Now, he has to be the primary, but he hits 3 targets, and his damage is reduced for each target hit by 15%. Okay, you see that in there? Commander like Isong does a ton of damage factor to a bunch of targets, 1,700, and reduced by 15% for each target hit. So when we look at Artemisia, what made her active skill so good, we thought, was that it was doing 1,800 damage factor and not being reduced by 15% per target hit, which would make sense given that, look, it's not like she's doing more damage than Guan. Guan does more damage, okay, and he's got a silence, okay, but she is also doing damage to herself. And that damage to herself would be justification for this skill not doing reduced damage to multiple targets, but that's not how it works. And that's not how she's ever worked. It's always been reducing the damage for hitting multiple targets. Now, the game needs to do that, by the way, in general, because otherwise AoE damage would just be gross. It'd be so gross. So this skill is what had the description for Artemisia. Now, if we pull up the mail that's explaining everything that's going on here, I put this in my favorites. They talk about how the skill actually is unchanged. It works the same way it's been working. Artemisia is still great in the field. I just used her all KVK with an unmaxed Tamaris because that combo was so strong. And I've used her in the past with commanders like Nebu in the open field and been very happy with the results. Now, I will say there are a few downsides to using Artemisia in the field that I do want to talk about. But here's what you're going to be getting. We're resetting Artemisia's level, stars, skill level, and refunding all resources previously used on the commander. We'll also be providing additional compensation to governors who have enhanced them. I guess I should say her. This will be based on the level, star level, skill level, etc. on Artemisia as calculated on 18th of August at 0 UTC. So this, don't go maxing her now thinking that you could go in and get, a whole bunch of stuff back. That's definitely not the case, all right? So if you invested in her in the past, you're going to get all this stuff back. Should you invest in her again? And that is a really, really fair ask. And we need to just look at her kit in the context of all the commanders that are available to you now and see, is she still really worth investing in? Is she still really that great for archers in the open field or for garrison? So let's talk about that for just a second. And by the way, I do wonder, why now? Like, this has always been the case with Artemisia. I feel like this has been brought up by players potentially a while ago. So why now? I think that it is because Artemisia could potentially be pairing very, very well with the new Archer Garrison Commander. That could potentially be very strong. But let's just get a quick look at her skills real quick. On the active skill, we've already talked about this a fair amount. But the second skill gives 20% health and defense, which is very strong. There's no way around it. 40% of stats, and especially the defensive stats, are very good for efficient trades. Attack is generally the least popular stat and least valuable stat. On the third skill, this is garrison related. So for field fighting, which is what most people will be doing, I don't even need to talk about this skill from a garrison standpoint, really, and how good it is or it isn't, because like most people aren't using her in the garrison. And if you are going to be garrisoning with her, it's because she's a part of a meta pair. And a bunch of whales will have figured that out already anyways. So whether or not she's going to be a good garrison commander or is going to be meta for garrison is really kind of a separate idea. Right now, I don't think she is. I think she could be strong with YSS, but I still feel like Xeno YSS has been kind of the way to go. So let's get to the next skill here, which is a silence effect on herself, where she boosts damage. Now, I have to say that I dislike this silence effect. I love the 50% damage boost. I think that's kind of insane. When this commander's rage meter hits 80%, there's a 50% chance to silence themselves for 3 seconds. And at the same time, she grants her troops 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. So you will still potentially boost the active skills on your commanders if you're generating rage slowly enough. Weirdly enough. So you will still actually fire off your active skills and get a boost to your skill damage if the timing of is still right, if the speed of rage gain still kind of matches up with when your active skills are going to fire off. But in general, I kind of don't like silence effects. In the open field, you really kind of want to fire off those active skills as fast as you can, because if you wait a couple seconds more, the target may have walked away, or they may not be there anymore. They may already be gone from all the damage other players have dealt. Now, she offsets the negative aspect of that silence effect with an expertise skill that is actually doing a lot of damage. The instant proc on Tamaris is powerful. 10% chance to trigger damage factor 400 for 3 seconds. That's 1200 damage factor, and causes the target to deal 15% extra skill damage for 3 seconds. So that's a pretty big downside, boosting the skill damage dealt by the target. Can't ignore that. That's actually a Bjorn Ironside debuff worth of boost, right? Like, you know, instead of debuffing the skill damage that the target takes, making it so they take more skill damage, Tamaris is making it so that the target deals more skill damage. Whoops. That's not going the right way. So where do I land on Artemisia overall? I think I'm going to make the following argument. If you're planning to pair her with Tamaris, which is very powerful in the open field for debuffing skill damage because you're using multiple marches, I actually think she's really strong, and I would recommend her very highly for the open field. But if all you're doing is looking for a good open field archer commander and you're not going to pair with Tamaris, I kind of feel like if you had to choose between Artemisia and some other commander, I would make the argument that a commander like Cyrus or Ramses or Nebu might be a more powerful open field choice. So if you're limited on sculptures and you're deciding where do I reinvest, unless you're running Artemisia Tommy, I think you probably put those sculptures somewhere else. Maybe one of the new archer commanders will be the thing to do. It could be that you just go for a commander like Nebu, who is really great in the open field, bringing a ton of area of effect damage. He's got march speed, he's got defense, he's got some debuffs that are really solid. Alternatively, you could look at a commander like Cyrus the Great for the open field. Also does single target damage with some really solid debuffs and AoE when you're getting hit. Instant proc damage as well. I think that for players who have already invested in Artemisia, if you don't plan to garrison and you don't pair with Tamaris, that you should probably plan to not invest in Artemisia again. And I think that you just take advantage of this real boon of being able to say, cool, like I don't have to invest in the old meta. I can get those sculptures back from the old meta and put them somewhere new. Now, I will say, comedically, when they did this reset song and dance with Chandragupta, I was like, oh, hell yeah, don't reinvest in Chandragupta. And later, they released XY, and Chandragupta with XY was basically a meta rally, right? Like, that is one of the best rallies. In fact, all KVK, that was more or less our go-to rally when you wanted to get the most damage done to the target. So my track record for saying whether or not it's worthy of reinvestment in a commander is a little bit mixed, right? Like Chandragupta was still really good, and Artemisia is still really good. But I just generally feel like if you're given an opportunity to try a new commander and have some fun with them in the open field or to rally or to garrison, you know, why the heck not take the opportunity to try something new and reallocate your commanders to something different that you can go and try. Now, I personally will be holding on to those sculptures until I see what the new archers do. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I think I will probably just let my Artemisia chill for a bit when I get that full refund on sculptures. I will happily bring my sculpture count back up. Now, I think when they did this in the past, help me remember this correctly, but I think when they did this for Chandragupta, they gave you your universals back for all the universals you spent, and I think they gave Chandragupta specific sculptures for all the ones that were like, that you got from like Mightiest Governor, for example, that were dedicated Chandragupta sculptures. Because like, yeah, that's definitely correct. I don't know why I would have skills on Chandragupta if that was not correct. But the thing that's a little bit weird with Artemisia is that if we just get a look over here at her information, the cost will be recorded only for new commanders acquired after this date. So do they just give me back all universals, or will it be a blend? Did I miss that somehow in the mail? I don't think they have listed that at all. So I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to let my sculpture count jump back up to like 1,400 so I can max any meta that I want or need, which is a very, very powerful place to be. I've talked about that in a ton of videos. But I'm definitely eager for your thoughts down below in the comments. If I were betting money, I would say they're probably changing Artemisia now because she's about to be meta with a new commander. They're not worried about giving people a bunch of sculptures back because they're probably going to feel like they want to reinvest in her anyways. And in the grand scheme of things, I think that's some pretty interesting timing for going in and correcting her skills. Because I think she's always been very strong. So strong that I would use her in a murder ball with just 5 marches. So she's still a great commander. Her combat power is unchanged. Should you continue to invest in her or not? We'll see if she's meta for garrisoning, but if not, most players, I'd recommend that if you only care about open field, you consider trying something new. If you enjoyed this video, throw a like on here and consider subscribing. If you're looking for more information on Artemisia, I'll have a card up in the top. You can check out my full guide on her. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.